So, I had a hard time trying to figure out a story because one of the problems I have is lack of fear. Although right now my body is trembling while I'm telling the story because this isn't my cup of tea. I don't like talking about myself and talking about a story when everyone's watching me like you are. But I don't lack the courage. My body, like I said, the adrenaline is going, but the fear, there's no fear for me to stop to do it. So I was deciding like which part of my story can I tell? I have so many entrepreneurial stories, in fact. And the one that hits home the hardest is the one that, you might need your tissues for this one. But I opened a restaurant at 26 years old. And my partner, to make a long story short, steals the money. And what I mean by stealing the money is you count the drawer at the end of the night, you drop it off in the office, you lock and key, and then the next morning you come up, and either the manager or myself grabs that bag, takes it to the bank and deposits it. So all of a sudden, one day I come in and there's no bag. There's no money bag. Then it happens the next day, and another week, and 2 weeks, and 3 weeks. And a couple months later, I haven't paid my rent because I made sure that the days that there were money, that the bag wasn't missing, that I was going to pay everybody. So the first thing I learned as an entrepreneur, although I had already owned my own business prior to this one, I never had this problem. This situation never arose before. So here I was deciding, I have to pay my vendors, I have to pay the chefs, I have to pay the staff, and I made sure of that. Instead of paying myself, which now I've learned I should have paid myself first, because I, honest to God, thank God it was a restaurant, so there was food all the time, so I didn't have to have money to buy food. But literally, I started using my credit card to pay for the rent. But I figured, you know what? I'll get it Saturday night. We'll have a really good night Saturday night. And money was there. The business was doing amazing. We had no competition, and it was great. I was in the paper, and it was great. And then Christmas Eve, when I realized 3 months into it that this was a no-winning situation, that I would have to argue with my partner about the money. So I knew it was a matter of, well, I obviously have to leave. What am I going to do? Do I sue him? What do I do? And in the end, it so happened that I made an executive decision that he didn't care for. We're having a battle, and instead of him being able to say, I fucked up, I messed up, I can't pay you. And that's another story. Apparently, he was taking the bags every night and going to a strip joint. And again, obviously, he was taking all those bills and saying, it's all on me. And that's great, and God bless him. But at the end of the day, it's Christmas Eve, we're having a standoff, and he's in my face, and you're not going to talk to me like that. I'm going, man, I might be only 120 pounds and a blonde little girl here, but I have a roar, and I'm telling you right now, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Well, maybe you just need to go home and think about it. Think about what? Think about what? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk out that door, and you're never going to see me again. That's the best thing I can tell you. That's the best I'm going to do for myself. Yeah. Well, let's make it clear that you're doing it, because I told you that I'm not going to work with you, or blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember. Bottom line, what I really remember is the finger pointing and me standing there. And just like in the movies where you hear, dun, 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 dun. And I didn't care. I had no fear. It was, I'm in debt. I've never been in debt. I've been a perfect little citizen, and never put myself in debt, and made all the right decisions and paid my credit cards and did all this stuff. And I worked my ass off in 3 different countries and paid for my own school and did it all by myself. And all of a sudden, I'm $100,000 in debt. I have no family. I'm in a country with no family. My boyfriend, I leave him because he can't help me. And so I decide, well, maybe I'll just get him out of the way so I can focus more on what I have to do. And yet now I didn't realize when you break up with someone you're really into that all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I can't breathe. What? He's not calling me. What the? So at the end, the worst part was Christmas Eve. Battery on my cell phone is dead, and I don't even have a quarter in my pocket, and I just want to call my best friend. And I didn't even want to cry. I was so besides myself about the fact that this happened to me. Or how can someone do this to me? How can I, how did I let myself go there? The next day, my partner calls me up and wanted me to apologize because he wanted me back, because he needed me. In fact, he didn't know anything about the business. He had the money. I had the sense of business. I had the restaurant experience. My first memory was washing dishes from a sink that was like this deep. And in order to get to it, I was 8 years old, and I would have to stand on a Coke crate. And that was one of my first vivid memories of being in a restaurant. That was my parents' first restaurant in Spain. That's where I grew up. So thanks to that awful experience, although it took me many, many, many years, it took me about 10 years of being a hermit, paying off the debt, where the reason of why I did it, because you ask yourself, why did I make that choice? What did I learn from it? At least, what did I learn from it? And all of a sudden, it came out that I was training people, consulting people on how to have the courage to do their own business, to have the courage to say, so what if you fail? Look at me. I stood back up, and not only did I stand back up, I came out from the ashes. Now I'm a life coach, and what do? That's what I do for a living. I empower people, thanks to my crisis. And that's my story.